So we're already to the overview on section 4, which focuses on vocabulary, client outcomes, and your references. So as you complete each of these sections, you will include references with each of those sections. However, after you submit them in sections for your first draft, for your group assignment, you're going to want to take all of them and put them in one section. You want to make it as easy as possible for the trainer to pull out that book and look for articles in that you've referenced throughout the whole training project. So let's go through each of these pieces separately. First, the vocabulary. You are going to want to develop a vocabulary list for the trainer that includes every important term. And this is, again, using behavioral jargon. However, it needs to be in your own words. Until you can phrase things using your own terms, you really haven't mastered fully the concept. And so what happens a lot of times is this is a place where sometimes people have problems with plagiarism, and we want to avoid that at all costs. You have to put it in your own words. You will develop more mastery over time if you can do that. Now, my suggestion is for each person, there might be one person who's in charge of this section, but you send that person all the terms and definitions in any section that you're responsible for, and making sure that they are written in a professional, technical jargon type of manner, as opposed to the terms you're going to use for your direct care staff. Just as a heads up, when we get to section 5 next, all the definitions you provide for your direct care staff should be accessible to them based on the description in section 1. However, they still need to have the technical precision, and so it takes a lot of time to craft those. Sometimes it's easier if you develop this vocabulary section first and make sure that, okay, what are the terms we have here and how can we rephrase these in a way that's far more accessible for our direct care staff who are really just starting out in this field. All right, so vocabulary is one component of this section. The next one is client outcomes. And as a supervisor, it is your job to always make sure that all of your trainees are collecting data and that you are able to assess those data, that you can draw conclusions about those data. And here's the thing, not everybody gets equivalent training on data collection and how to use data, how to develop good operational definitions, how to select the right assessment method or measurement method rather, how to graph your research or how to graph your data, and then also what single subject research design might be appropriate to test something out. So for example, obviously with fire starting, I am not going with an AB design. That's an ethical nightmare. I don't need to establish a functional relationship that hard. But for all the behaviors that you're going to be focusing on in your training, you're going to want to have in this section a couple of specific behaviors, at least a couple of specific behaviors, and a clear operational definition of them that is specific, observable, measurable. You're going to want to make sure if it's clear whether it's a single behavior like hitting, or if it's a response class like aggression that includes hitting, kicking, whatever. You want to give an example, and you want to give at least 2 non-examples. Now, let me tell you the biggest error people make with non-examples. They create something that is so far wrong, where it's like, okay, aggression is hitting the other person. A non-example would be watching television. Well, nobody's going to confuse that. And so what you want to have here with every time you generate a non-example, you want to get as close to accurate as possible, but being off in one significant way. And so let's say it was hitting somebody, then my non-example, so don't use this one, my non-example might be picking a piece of lint off of somebody else's clothes. Because I am coming in contact with them, but I'm not hitting them. I'm just grooming them. All right, so you're going to want 2 non-examples. The reason non-examples are so important is because this is where you learn to make fine discriminations, and this section is for the trainer, but a lot of these materials are going to serve you well when you get to the next section too. So it's doing a dual purpose. All right, for each target behavior, you want to identify what's an appropriate measurement system, and you want to explain why that's an appropriate measurement system. So you might have to pull out your Cooper book. You might have to pull out the book from your single subject research design course. You're going to want to outline conditions where this measurement system is not appropriate. And you could talk about the relative strengths of the measurement system or their weaknesses of other measurement systems and to support your argument. Then you're going to have a graphed example of baseline and intervention conditions that demonstrate a functional relationship. So hint, hint, A-B design is not going to cut it. If you don't know why, reach out to your instructor. I'll go back and read those materials from your single subject research design course or from maybe the Cooper book. Okay, finally, there are lots of different single subject research design methods out there. Briefly explain why a specific single subject research design would be appropriate, including that it demonstrates a functional relationship. Again, you always want to make sure you include information about how these materials address the task list 5 items that appear there, or the professional ethical compliance code. If you want to get crazy, do both. Sometimes you can switch back and forth. Different people can focus on different things. The more you do that, the more you as a group can start to fluently integrate this information. And fluently integrating information is critical for being a good supervisor, but also for preparing for the BCBA exam. Okay, next, the references section. This is a section that's a little bit tricky because different professors feel differently about it. Some people take a lot of points off on this. Other people really don't care that much. Like, for example, what I care about is that you have referenced everything when you do a literature review. Sorry, there's a bug there. I'm not crazy. That you reference everything in a literature review and that reference appears here. So if I want to go find that article, if I grab your training manual and I want to use that, I'm going to make sure that I want to be able to go to this section and find that reference right away so I can go find the article and read it myself. You do want to use APA style, but in this section, it's fine if you single space it instead of double spacing it. If you single space it, I would double space between references. Otherwise, they're all smashed together, and that's just a usability issue, which I think is important for whenever you're developing a training manual. You want to make sure that your materials are easy to find stuff and it's, I know this sounds silly, pleasant to the eyes, that you make good use of white space, and it's easy to find the materials, because otherwise people just won't do it. And then you've used all this energy, and they're not going to take advantage of your product. And when they don't, treatment fidelity is probably going to go down. And you're likely to have more conflict between your supervisors and your trainees, because the supervisor might not have been the trainer and doesn't understand that your staff have not been sufficiently exposed to all the relevant materials. All right, before I knock anything else down, I have another bug coming at me. I'm going to take off. I will remind you, as I always do, please, please, please reach out to us if you need help. Your instructor, it is their job, but also they picked this job because they want to make a difference for you. They want to support you. They want you to be successful. So please reach out if you need help.